Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank IAFOR for inviting us to come talk to you today. I'd like to thank Steve for that warm introduction. This talk is geared for the learning technologist, and I'm sure there's many different levels of technology acceptance and technology integrations in your classroom. As we introduce today this technology that's not even really widely accepted yet, I want you to keep in your back of your mind, is this something I think I want to use? Am I skeptical about this particular technology? Are you excited about it? Are you a little bit standoffish? Because that feeling is really what the core of this talk is going to try to convey to you today. And also, we only have 30 minutes. We have a lot to go through, so I'm going to go kind of fast. But like any learning technologist, you can refer to all this information online afterwards. We have things to reference and give you posts. So if you don't get everything, it's okay. We can also talk, because we need to get out in 30 minutes, because I'm sure all of you are starting to taste the sake, which we're going to be having a little bit in just a second here. So with that in mind, I'm Eric, this is Erin, this is Martin, and we're going to start you on our case study of this new technology.
We will be at the sake tasting. We'll have our table up there, so questions we will take there rather than here. Yeah.
Right, you want to start us off with this one?
Yeah, sure. So what is AR? We're talking about TEDx and AR. And so anybody, AR, what does that stand for? Steve mentioned a little bit, but augmented reality. Thank you for playing. Augmented reality, there it is. And so we're going to tell you a little bit about augmented reality. So what is that? Well, we know what reality is, we hope. What is the augmented part of that, and how do these two fit together? So augmented reality is reality, the world that exists, the physical world, the real world, and some sort of digital information put over that. So you might have a piece of paper, you might have Shijo Street in Kyoto, and you have some sort of digital information put over this. So this is an example of using your device, your phone, and the GPS information in your phone to lay a digital information over what you were seeing in the real world. So so augmented reality. This is, yeah, that's okay. This is the Wikipedia definition of augmented reality. What is it? It's a copy view of the physical or real world environment whose elements are augmented or supplemented by computer-generated sensory input, such as sound, video, graphics, and GPS data.
So some of you might have heard of virtual reality, and that's a completely simulated environment, and we're all here now together in the real world. Augmented reality is that whole spectrum in between those two things. And then some people refer to that as mixed reality as the whole, and then there's reality virtually and augmented reality as different levels of virtual versus real world integration.
So we have here the flow of medium, and some people say that augmented reality may be the 8th mass medium. So all the way back from print, which we're familiar with, recording, cinema, radio in the 1900s, television, 1950s, the internet in the 90s, mobile technology in the 2000s, and then possibly augmented reality now. And you can see from the flow of this, it's about the right time, maybe for the next evolution of a medium. So, but the debate here is augmented reality really a new medium, or is it just a new iteration of mobile technology? Because it does rely a lot on devices. So is it just another application of mobile technology, or is it an actual new medium?
And one of the compelling arguments against that is it's not necessarily a mobile technology, because we're starting to see a lot of wearable technology now. And is it mobile, is it not? Is it something new completely? As in, augmented reality is something that could be iterated in different levels and different ways, so it might be something separate completely altogether.
And then there's different types of AR, and they rely on camera tracking, non-camera tracking, or some kind of combination of those. And we're going to show you some examples of these. You want to go into a little bit of what those things are?
Oh, sure. So this is kind of a way we decided to start thinking about the types of augmented reality and how we can utilize the different ways we can augment the real world with information coming in to a technological device like a cell phone or some Google Glass or something like that. So you can talk about the camera bringing in visual information from the real world and taking that visual information, like a picture of a painting, and taking that and displaying information on top of that for information about the artist or something like that. And then you can use some non-camera tracking options. Your phone has a wide array of radios and motion sensors and things like that. Most importantly, your GPS sensor. So your phone knows exactly where you are in the world, and you can use that data in some way. For example, you can trigger some new information when a student gets to a particular location. And that's very simple. And you can combine those two, get to a specific location, and then look at a specific thing or a picture or something like that.
So this is the first actual example of camera tracking data, and you have something here that you're all familiar with, the QR codes. And so you have the QR code, and then this is putting a digital enhancement over that code. And this was actually created by one of the founding fathers of augmented reality here in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Professor Kato, he's now working at the Nara Institute of Technology. And this is something called the AR Toolkit. This is an integration that came out about 12, 15 years ago. This is before smartphones were around, but this was using web cameras and your PC.
This is something that you're all familiar with, but this is also augmented reality. You have the real world that the pilot is seeing, and then the digital information is put over that to enhance the information and enhance what the pilot knows about that. And so that's non-camera tracking, or non-camera tracking plus the GPS and flight data. And this is an example of combined. I don't know if you're familiar with this app or not, but it's the combined camera tracking, GPS, and motion tracking. And you can fish in any cylindrical object. And so you have your coffee cup there, and with this app you can cast into your coffee cup. The camera will find the cylindrical thing, and then you can bring it up and reel it in. You can fish something right out of a cup.
So that's using the visual information as the coffee cup. It could be anything cylindrical it's looking for, a soccer ball or anything like that. But it's using the GPS data in your phone as well. So you have to go to a specific place in the world, find something around, and then you get to fish out the rarest of the fish or something like that.
So the fish you actually fish depends on where you are in the world.
So that's just a cute example of combining those two together.
Okay, and then so there are different areas where augmented reality technology is being applied. One of those areas is tourism. It's being applied quite extensively in the world, and we're seeing actually more and more. There's almost every day when I go out in Japan, I'm seeing another example of this somewhere. So using AR in tourism for navigation, some sort of gaming, GPS gaming, and also using camera tracking to translate written words such as word lens, and then tagging images and flyers and other print materials. So when you look at something and you hold your phone over this, you can see more information about whatever that is, whatever that thing is that you're looking at.
Yeah, we're seeing probably the most case uses of this augmented reality right now in tourism, because it's probably got the most merit and most use right now. A lot of us are even using navigation in our cars, and that really is a form of augmented reality because it's tracking your GPS information and augmenting it with a map and data from the internet to give you guidance to where you're going. And just some quick examples. The navigation, this is an app. I'm looking outside my office, and it just is taking information from Wikipedia, and it knows I'm facing north. So it's putting some information, like 1 kilometer straight ahead is Fukushima Castle, and 900 meters in this direction is City Hall. So you can take in data from almost anywhere on the internet and use the data that where you are physically in the world and the direction you're facing to give you navigational information, just like the cockpit in the airplane.
This is an example of GPS gaming. And so there's these things hidden around the world, and you use your GPS data to try to find these things, and then you leave an object in that box, and other people can do the same. So it's kind of a gamification of this technology. And this is an example of the translation. So you have an object, or you have a thing that has language on it, and you can hold your device up, and it will put that into the language that you know.
Yeah, the algorithms that their phones are capable of doing now are so complex and so sophisticated now that they're actually able to look at the geography and the math associated with the characters on that page and then put them into words and then translate that into another language. They're only available in Western languages right now, unfortunately not available in the Eastern languages. But Google actually bought this company, and they're going to be using it through their own augmented reality applications coming towards the future.
Those are some of the tourist applications of this. And then AR is also being used in language learning, but as we know, education is quite often slower to adapt things than industry and like tourism. And so the tourism industry is way ahead on this. But also we're using augmented reality in education as well. Textbooks. Eric actually has a textbook where he's integrated some augmented reality into that, camera tracking to translate the words, and then adding the layers of this of WebQuest and things like that.
So WebQuest is a traditional form of web-based instructional design. So you have kids go out on the internet with a task they have to perform and look for things on the internet. But the augmented reality adds a physical portion of that. So they have to physically go to a place on campus or physically go to a place in the world. And then they're given a task or a quest, and then they have to maybe interview someone or find a specific place and read about the history or take a picture of a statue or whatever it might be. And just to talk about some of the rationale case use, Martin mentioned that I'm redesigning a textbook to use augmented reality enhanced materials, and really it's really connecting the real world to any supplementary materials you may have on the internet. So for the case use of my own textbook, it's an English language textbook. There might be a dialogue in the book. You point your camera phone at it, you can hear that dialogue, you can see real life uses of it on the web, maybe via a YouTube video or something like that.
Okay, and then Eric can talk a little bit more if we need to in detail about these things, or maybe save questions for later on these, but there's basically 4 companies that make AR software at this time that you can buy to use. And what we did and what we do is you have to have the software to create what we're going to show you in a minute, but you can then access that and interact with that through a free app that you download. So, but these are the major companies or the major players in AR.
There's more AR companies coming out all the time. This is becoming more and more popular, but these are pretty much the 4 main players, and they all have their niches. The one on top is Lyre. They're mainly in print media. They do a lot of enhancements of, like, let's say, fashion magazines and billboards and things like that. Aereo is more towards the tourism side of things. Genio is what we are using for our TEDx case study. It was mostly involved in engineering and the sciences, where they're, for example, in a factory, someone might get out their tablet and point it at an engine, and it will tell them, look at the engine, know what it is, and tell them where the bolts go or how to exactly disassemble it or something like that. The last one, Arasama, is probably the best for us to use as educators because you don't need any third-party software or any something loaded on your PC or any special software development kit. Your students can actually make it with themselves on their phone. It's most accessible. Anything else to add? Okay. These are some of the projects that I've been doing personally using AR for the past couple of years. Tourism for our Forever Kyoto project. Trying to integrate some of, as you go to a new place, augmenting what you see and what you hear as you travel, enhanced with these technologies. This is the textbook I talked about just a minute ago, and orientation. We're trying to implement this in large-scale events and conferences to try to get communication both online and together in a more, deep and more maybe engaging way.
And this is probably going to segue into our TED Talk,
yep.
TEDx. Okay.
Just to talk briefly about the design of these particular things. Talking about the textbook, it kind of takes what you know about print design, maybe if you know something about web design, it kind of combines them together. So for example, this is one page out of my textbook. There's a lot of white space in the bottom, and that's there on purpose because I'm going to fill it up with buttons as you look at it through your phone. So at the bottom there's a dialogue on the top, you can listen, you can take a quiz by just hitting buttons on your phone.
So, TED.
Yay!
All right, so how do we use this at TED? So if you guys know what TED is, it stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. First conference was in 1984. Then it wasn't very successful. Started again in 1990, and it's been held yearly ever since. And then what we work for is TEDx Kyoto. So a TEDx isn't a real TED, but it is licensed by TED. So if you're going to hold a TEDx event, your organization, your group, your university, your city, whatever it is, gets a license from TED, and then they can have their own TEDx event. So It's the world's largest platform of ideas. You've got 12,000 events, 170 countries, 2,600 cities, 50,000 talks, 60 languages, and 750 million views. So there's a lot of people. TED is out there, TED and TEDx. And this...
Yeah, the 750 million was last year, and they expect that to reach Gangnam Style status this year of 1 billion views.
It'll go. It'll go.
Yeah.
That's the standard.
This is us at TEDx Kyoto, woo, and our team. Woo. And so our job was to figure out how we could engage people. So you've got a lot of people who come to TEDx, and they stand in this line and they wait. And then they open the doors. And then they all run in and they get their seat. And then they watch. And then the TEDx, that presentation's over. And then they run outside and they get a drink. And they're like, that was very interesting. Okay, ready. And then they run back in and they sit back down again. So if you don't engage them in something, they might just sit there, zone out, see it, and then go home. So there's also vendors there. And they're all lined up, where all these people are lined up. And the people they look at the table, free pen? Okay, thank you. And then they just move on. And the vendors want people to engage with them. The reason they are there and sponsoring this event is to promote themselves and promote TEDx. So we have to find a way to involve the vendors, involve the participants, and make the participants more connected to the event. Instead of, here I am at TEDx Kyoto, here I am, TEDx Kyoto, okay? So we use the augmented reality in a couple different ways. This is one of the ways we use it. So this is one of the signs that's augmented. It seeks out the image through the Junaio app, and then it overlays that on top of it. Person holds it up. I am TEDx Kyoto. So now I've become a part of it, and it's fun. And they all sit there and play with it. Whee! So we had 3 different levels of kind of technical skill levels. So we have the low level. For our low level integration, accessible to everyone, really easy. Even the people who are like, ooh, tech, meh. We had these messages from the past, and we'll show you that in just a moment. So there was a volunteer there who would tell them what to do. Okay, on the front side of the card, please write something you've learned from the past in your life and your dream and your journey. Because the theme of TEDx Kyoto was
Onko Chishin. Learning. It's really hard to translate. It's learning, re-examining something you've already learned in the past to learn something new.
It's this back here.
That big.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it's written. So yeah, for example, you might have read a book when you were younger, but now you have all this experience in your life. You go back and read it again, you find new meaning and get something new out of it. That's the concept behind it.
So they wrote their thing that they've learned from their past, and on the other side of the card, they write their message to the future. So they could all become a part of the event, and their little card got hung up on our nice little bamboo stand there. Our medium level was for them to come by our AR photo booth, and there they could hold their program. All of their program was coded and with a trigger on our augmented reality channel. They could hold it there and take their picture, and then we would tweet it out. And then the high level one, they actually downloaded the Junaio app, and then they could go around to all of the vendors and go, sweet, that's awesome, and look at all of the signs. So let's look at some of that. So here's our little lovely bamboo thing with their messages from the past and their ideas for the future. And they're tying them all up on there. And here are some of the nice ladies there taking their picture so that we could tweet it out. On one side of the program, it had cute little hearts. I think we've got an example of that. Yay! And so they'd come out and take their picture, and then they go, that's so cool! And they become more and more part of the event.
It's not really a picture. I don't know. We had this available to demo earlier today, but it tracks you, moves around with you. So you bring it into the field of view of the web camera, and you can move it around. And it's actually 3D and moving around. And they're having fun with it, and we're taking screenshots as they're doing this, and then we're live tweeting that out. And we have a big screen behind us showing us all the previous live tweets. So that's helping, generate some conversation online.
So we ended up with a couple hundred different images of all these people and tweeting them out all day on our hashtag. So we're trying to get it trending, trying to get it involved. And then our high level is we've got our signs on all the different vendors' tables. So Fuji Xerox is one of the vendors, Osaka Gas. And if they download the app and they go around and go exploring, they can see all of these cool things layered on top and then play with it. They could click on the Twitter logo and send out a tweet, and it referenced the company, so the company was all happy because they're like, oh, look, they tweeted about our company and they saw it there. And they can go to the website and they can watch some YouTube videos, all kinds of different things that we layered on it. So they were going around having fun doing the scavenger hunt at all of the vendors and actually talking to them, engaging them in what they were doing. So we had a tweet rally. They could go around, and if they could tweet at every single one of the vendors, and they could come back and see us, and we gave out prizes. And so basically did all kinds of other fun stuff as well. So this one is a 360, well, it's more than that, right? 360 is just this way.
It's spherical.
Spherical view of the stage. So you could stand and scan in the QR code onto your Junaio app, and then you were on the stage of TEDx Kyoto, and you could look up and look down on your device. So it was fun because there would be a person standing by our table going, wow.
Bumping into people.
And everybody else comes over, what are you looking at? Beep, wow.
Bump into
So we had
someone.
this big gathering of people stumbling about. And then, you want to tell us more about what he was doing?
Yeah, we had an indie game developer join our team, and he made this very interesting interactive sound body experience where you would play music and move your body around, and according to your movement of your body and the sound coming in through the computer, it would generate a live video, interactive
It's hard to describe.
visual
It was
experience.
kind of a color show. So you'd see your hand, and your hand would actually be energy, light energy, and as you would move your hand, you could twist the flow of the light.
And the color would change with the light, comparing to the frequency of the sound coming in from the music.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Just to go back to the spherical stuff, that's one of the powerful things about AR is because, especially in the tourism and even in the gamified quests, you can be transported in time and place depending on where you are. So in this case, participants got a chance to know what it was like to be behind stage or be on stage. And this is starting to be used as a tool to kind of build empathy in different situations as well in the educational world.
Well, like you can go to certain places, and if you could, like we were talking about Himeji Castle, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you could be standing at Himeji Castle and scan a QR code and then see what it was like, 1,000 years ago. If they have this cool generated image, and then look at the castle and look at the city, what it would look like around you if you were there 1,000 years ago. Really fun and really exciting applications. So here's our different levels again. So afterwards, we went back through and recorded how many people used all the different levels of activity. So our messages from the past, we had a physical card count. We counted all the cards to see how many participated. And then we took observations. How were they interacting? Like we noticed some people didn't realize there were two sides to the card. So they only wrote like a message from the past, or they wrote a message to the future, not noticing the other side of the card. And notes from our volunteers who were standing at the table. At our photo booth, there was no download required, so we couldn't track how many people accessed the software, but we could count all of our screenshots and how many tweets that we had. And again, observations and notes. And then our AR application, you could track how many people accessed the channel, right?
And not only that, you can track when they accessed and when their phone triggered or recognized images that we had pre-programmed at events. So we could find out which booths were more popular than others.
And the usage time, right, timestamps and all the social
If they
media.
spent a lot of time at a particular booth and whatnot.
All this data is very useful when you use this technology for an event. That's what we're talking about, is trying to engage the participants in the event with the event itself. And this is great data that you can then give back to the sponsors of the event to say your booth was visited by this many people who spent this much time at the booth and did all this engagement with it. So it's great data that then you can feed back to the event officials and also the sponsors.
And some of them actually tweeted at them, so they can then respond back to them in any fashion and ask them questions about their experience that they had at their booth.
All right, and so here's our different levels of activity participation. At our low level at our cards, we had 312. And at our medium level of our tweets and our pictures, we had 107 that got sent out. And then 45 people downloaded the app, or 45 devices downloaded the app. I don't know if people had multiple devices.
So yeah, just to give you perspective on this, there were about 650 participants and about 250 volunteers. We have a large group of student volunteers that they were mainly participants, but they were there to help the event and learn from the event actually. So out of that, what is that, over 800 or so, 300 wrote a message with pen and paper, 107 came and were enticed by the non-download medium, and then 45 actually went on to download the app and try to explore the arena with it. And so what this really shows us is where this technology fits into how it's being accepted in the wide range of things, because this really fits into the theory of the diffusion of technology. When in that theory states that we have some innovators at the top, and then we have early adopters, which a lot of learning technologists fall into those ranges. And then we have an early majority. A lot of people, maybe the people that had the first 1 or 2 iterations of the iPhone, something like that. And then afterwards, we have a late majority and the laggards, and then, of course, that's the representation by the pen and paper activity that we had. So this is telling us that it's still, just by the sheer numbers, it's really telling that it's not quite in the majority. And we already knew that, but we also can tell some case studies about the design principles that go into designing effective uses of this technology, and the way that we scaffolded these one on each other is becoming very important, because still this technology needs a little bit of scaffolding, a little bit of education, and if we're going to integrate this into our classrooms, we're going to have some sort of step-up type pattern and some orientation for our students to be able to use this technology. And we had a lot of data that was brought up on Google Analytics, all the data through the app. We can tell who went where and who did what, the 45 downloads. The thing that was kind of disappointing about this particular thing, they only had 20 minutes in between the sessions, and that's kind of a lot to ask someone to sit there and download an app. It takes a couple of minutes depending on if they can access the Wi-Fi in the area, and if they're traveling and they have access to data, and to go around to all of them. So it's, we can tell that it was a low rate of adoption, but the most important thing that we got, the feedback from what we observed with people, that it has still a high novelty rate. There's a lot of wow factor. In Japanese, a lot of people going sugoi all day long. And as we move towards the future of this, what's really exciting is it's still kind of slightly awkward to juxtapose your body, to try and get the right position, to get the frame and everything in to augment and still touch the device. So you're working with real world and something in both hands, basically. And as we start to move towards these wearables, that's when this really gets exciting, because then it becomes a little bit ubiquitous, and this stuff just kind of pops up whenever data is available on the internet, streaming into our eye holes. And these are, Google Glass is already gone, but these are a couple other devices that have become popular. The one on the right here is an Epson device, and this is like a eye projector, projecting stuff right into your eyes. The project name for the case use that we talked about today, orientation, go online. You can see videos of all the messages people wrote and things like that. Some of them are very interesting. My personal website is the projects that I introduce in tourism and education. You can see some more information about that on that. And if you want to come to TEDx Kyoto, it's November 8th. We're going to have 15 great speakers. Can't tell you hard just yet, because we haven't quite set them in stone yet. But we invite you to come and enjoy the next event with us at the end of the year, because we're going to be doing the next generation of this type of activity, along with others, again this fall. Any other comments, guys?
Take questions at the sake.
Yeah, let's drink some sake.